Hi, this is Shane from IndieExpress.com. I'm here with Michael Davies, the director of The Choir, which took 6 years for you to make. Let's kind of talk about why you wanted to make this film.
I was in South Africa in 2000 shooting a totally different documentary for another organization, and one of the characters in that story had actually been to prison. So in order to tell his backstory, I went to the prison, and while I was shooting there, one of the prison wardens said to me, "Have you ever heard an African prison choir singing?" And I said, "No, I didn't even know they existed." So we walked out into the prison yard, and there were 30 or 40 older prisoners, all in their orange jumpsuits, kind of shuffling around in the prison yard, and one of them began to sing. And then they all came together in the middle of the prison yard and broke into this exquisitely beautiful four-part harmony. And then they started moving and wheeling and dancing around the prison yard. And the hair stood up on the back of my neck, and my bones were shaking, and I thought, this is the film that I should be making. So I spent a year trying to get access, long-term access after that, and eventually succeeded, and then just dug in and started documenting the life of this one particular prisoner, this kid who was brand new to the prison and had very rough edges. And when he was adopted into the prison choir, he began to change. His life was slowly being transformed. He was turning into a better kind of person, and I thought, I'm going to stick with this. This is a good story to tell.
So 6 years of your time following him, I guess it kind of follows his arc from going into the choir and to going into the outside world at the end?
That's right. I actually start filming with him on the day he arrives in prison, and I was just very lucky because he turned out to be a wonderful young guy with a big heart and a real determination to do something with his life despite the circumstances he'd been brought up in. And interestingly, while prison for him was an incredibly difficult experience, when he was actually released again at the other end, when he was spat back out into Johannesburg, into the world outside, his life got harder again. And it was really because of the lessons he learned in prison about himself, about his identity, his skills, his talents, and most fundamentally his own personal worth, his value, that he managed to survive on the outside as well.
The prison choir, have you ever heard a prison choir sing? Is this I mean, and there's a competition and everything. Is it a fairly typical thing in Johannesburg prisons that this is?
Well, in fact, what I discovered was that in every prison across South Africa, there are multiple prison choirs. Singing is part of South African life in the way sports is part of ours. Throughout South Africa's history, in the black resistance against the British colonizers, in the black resistance against the apartheid government, singing was used as a way to rouse people's spirits, as a way to unify people in their battle against these oppressive forces, and so it has it's a natural fit in prisons as well. So every prison in the country has one or more choirs, and every 2 years all of them get together in a rock concert arena in Cape Town for a massive singing competition to see not only who sings the best, but also to celebrate the fact that they do sing and they can sing, and the importance of singing in the South African context.
What kind of crew did you work with on filming this? Was it just you, or did you have other people with you?
Most of the time it was just me. It was such a long production that I really couldn't afford to have anybody but me on location. There were times when I was assisted by a friend in South Africa, and then right at the end of the production, literally the last 4 or 5 days that I was in South Africa, I had the courage. I felt like the narrative was locked down enough that I could take the risk and bring in a film crew. I brought in a fairly sizable crew to shoot some high production value sort of musical set pieces. I needed other people to help me capture the grandeur of certain aspects of the music. So yeah, the short answer is most of the time it was me, and right at the end I spent the cash on a bigger crew just for a few days.
Okay, so 6 years shooting, right? How many hours of footage did you have in the end, and how long was your post?
I had 255 hours of footage at the end of it, which I guess is a lot, but not as much as some, I suppose. The editing took 40 weeks. I burned through 4 very good editors, and I was utterly exhausted, as were they, by the end.
Yeah, that's actually quite a bit of footage, I would think. For the this is the American premiere, right?
It's the US premiere, that's correct. The film had its world premiere in Sydney, Australia last night, and by all accounts it did very well and found an audience, which I'm delighted about. And it screens here in Los Angeles tomorrow night, and then again on Thursday night, and I'm incredibly excited to see how Americans respond to this kind of thing.
What is it about the film that you wish you want people to kind of walk away with at the end?
I want people's spirits to be uplifted first and foremost. That's what the music did for me. It made me feel happy with the world and excited to be alive again. And if I can translate some of that for the audience, then I'll be very happy. On another level, there's a message in the film that people, no matter how bad their circumstances are, and no matter how bad they've been in the past, no matter the mistakes they've made in the past, people can change if they're supported in the right way. If they're given the right kind of structure in which to change, people really can transform their lives, and that's a message I really believe in.
So what's next for the film, and then what's next for you?
Next for the film is to try and get theatrical distribution. It would be wonderful to find a larger audience for the film. As for me, I've just finished another film last week, so I'm a little tired.
You're busy.
I'm very, very, very busy. So I'm going to take a little time off and try and conjure up some more ideas, and then get out there in the world again.
Well, Michael, it's been a pleasure talking to you about the film. Any last things you would like to say about the choir? You could probably talk about the choir a lot, couldn't you?
Look, I think it's a unique movie in the sense that it gets deep inside a place you wouldn't normally see or hear. I think it's an interesting visual and audio experience, and I'm going to be interested to see whether the music affects people in the same way it affected me.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to seeing it, and hopefully our audience will be able to see it somewhere near them sometime soon. This is Michael Davies with the choir, and I'm Shane Morton with IndieExpress.com.